In the heart of Arabia, surrounded by vast deserts and ancient trade routes, stood the city of Makkah. At the center of this city was the sacred Kaaba, a structure built centuries earlier as a house of worship for the one true God. Yet by the 6th century, the spiritual purity of that sanctuary had been overshadowed by idol worship, tribal rivalries, and deep social inequalities. It was in this environment, in the year 570 CE, known in Arabian history as the Year of the Elephant, that a child was born who would forever change the course of human history. That child was Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His birth occurred into the respected Quraysh tribe, specifically the clan of Banu Hashim. However, despite this noble lineage, his early life was marked not by privilege, but by hardship. His father, Abdullah, had passed away before he was born. His mother, Amina, cared for him during his early childhood, but tragedy struck again when he was only 6 years old. With her passing, the young Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam became an orphan. In a society where family protection defined survival, orphanhood often meant vulnerability. Yet, destiny was preparing him for a unique mission. His grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, the respected leader of Quraysh, took him under his care. But only 2 years later, even this support would disappear with his grandfather's death. The responsibility of raising the young boy then passed to his uncle, Abu Talib. Despite financial hardship, Abu Talib loved and protected his nephew deeply. As Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam grew older, he accompanied his uncle on trade journeys across Arabia and beyond. These journeys exposed him to diverse cultures, beliefs, and the realities of human society. While others of his age might have been drawn into the tribal conflicts and idol-centered rituals of their time, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam developed a reputation that stood apart. People in Makkah began to call him Al-Amin, meaning the trustworthy. Merchants trusted him with their goods, neighbors trusted him with their disputes, and even those who did not follow him later would admit that he was known for honesty and integrity. Years passed, and his reputation continued to grow. Among those who heard about his character was a wealthy and respected businesswoman of Makkah named Khadija. She employed Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to lead one of her trading caravans. His honesty and fairness during this journey impressed her greatly. Eventually, she proposed marriage to him. Their marriage was not only a union of hearts, but also a partnership built on trust and mutual respect. Khadija would later become one of the most important supporters of the mission that was yet to begin. Even during these years of stability, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam felt a deep discomfort with the moral condition of society around him. Idol worship dominated religious life. The strong oppressed the weak. Tribal pride fueled endless cycles of revenge. Something inside him longed for spiritual clarity. To find peace and reflection, he began retreating to a cave in the mountains surrounding Makkah. This cave, known as Hijrah, overlooked the city and provided solitude far from the noise of markets and tribal politics. There he would spend nights in contemplation, reflecting on the Creator, the universe, and the purpose of human life. No one in Makkah could have imagined that these quiet moments in a small mountain cave were preparing the ground for the final chapter of divine revelation. Soon, in that very cave, a moment would occur that would transform not only the life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but the destiny of millions of people across the world. The silence of Hira was about to be broken by the first words of revelation. High above the city of Makkah, inside the quiet darkness of a mountain cave, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam spent long nights in reflection. The cave of Hira had become his sanctuary, a place far from the noise of trade markets, tribal disputes, and idol worship that dominated the city below. At the age of 40, during one of these nights of contemplation, an event occurred that would change the course of history. Suddenly, the angel Jibril appeared before him. The moment was overwhelming. The angel commanded him with a single word: read. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, startled and frightened, replied that he could not read. The command came again, and then again. Finally, the angel revealed the first words of what would become the Quran: read in the name of your Lord who created man from a clot, red, and your Lord is the most generous. The experience shook him deeply. His heart raced as he left the cave and hurried back to his home. When he arrived, he asked his wife, Khadija bint Khuwaylid, to cover him with a blanket. He feared something extraordinary had happened to him. But Khadija did not doubt him for a moment. She reassured him with powerful words that Allah would never disgrace someone who was known for honesty, generosity, and kindness to the poor. She reminded him of his character, how he helped the needy, protected the weak, and always spoke the truth. To seek further understanding, Khadija brought him to her cousin, Waraka ibn Nawfal, a learned man who was familiar with earlier scriptures. After hearing the account of the encounter, Waraka confirmed that the being who appeared in the cave was the same angel who had delivered revelations to earlier prophets. The message was clear. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had been chosen as a messenger of God. Yet the mission would not begin publicly. For the first few years, the call to Islam spread quietly and privately. The earliest believers were those closest to him, people who already trusted his character. Among the first to accept the message were his beloved wife Khadija, his young cousin Ali ibn Abi Talib, his close friend Abu Bakr, and his freed servant Zayd ibn Haritha. These early followers formed the foundation of the first Muslim community. For 3 years, the message of Islam spread quietly among small circles in Makkah. The core message was simple yet revolutionary: worship one God alone and abandon the idols that filled the Kaaba. Eventually, the command came for Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to proclaim the message publicly. He gathered the tribes of Quraysh and called them toward the worship of one God. But the reaction was far from welcoming. The leaders of Quraysh saw the new message not only as a religious challenge, but as a threat to their power and economic influence. The idols of the Kaaba attracted pilgrims from across Arabia. If people abandoned idol worship, their status and wealth could collapse. Soon the persecution began. Muslims were mocked, insulted, and tortured. Some of the weakest members of the new community suffered the most. Yet despite the growing hostility, the number of believers slowly increased. The message of Islam had begun, and the small group of believers in Makkah was about to face trials that would test their faith in ways they had never imagined. Soon, the pressure from Quraysh would become so severe that the followers of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would be forced to make a historic journey, one that would change the future of Islam forever. For more than a decade, the followers of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam endured relentless persecution in Makkah. The leaders of Quraysh mocked the message of Islam, tortured its followers, and attempted every possible method to silence the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yet despite the pressure, Islam continued to spread. Eventually, a new opportunity appeared from an unexpected place, the city of Medina, then known as Yathrib. Several tribes from the city had heard the message of Islam during the pilgrimage season and were deeply moved by its teachings of justice, unity, and worship of one God. They invited the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to migrate to their city and promised to protect him as they would their own families. This moment would lead to one of the most significant events in Islamic history, the Hijrah. However, the Quraysh leaders in Makkah quickly realized the danger of this migration. If Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam successfully reached Madinah and built a strong community there, the balance of power in Arabia could change forever. So they devised a final plan. A group of young warriors from different tribes was selected to surround the Prophet Isin home at night and assassinate him together. By doing so, they hoped the responsibility for his death would be shared among many tribes, preventing revenge from the Banu Hashim clan. But their plan failed. Allah revealed the assassination plot to the Prophet ﷺ. That very night, he asked his cousin Ali ibn Abi Talib to sleep in his bed while he quietly left the house. The assassins waited outside, unaware that their target had already escaped. The Prophet ﷺ then met his closest companion Abu Bakr, and together they began their journey toward Medina. Instead of heading directly north, they traveled south and hid inside the cave of Thar for 3 days to avoid the search parties sent by Quraysh. At one point, the pursuers came so close that Abu Bakr feared they would discover them. But the Prophet ﷺ calmly reassured him with words that would echo through history. "Do not be afraid. Indeed, Allah is with us." According to Islamic tradition, miraculous signs protected them during this time. A spider spun a web across the cave's entrance, and a bird built a nest nearby, making it appear as though no one had entered the cave for a long time. When the searchers arrived, they assumed the cave was empty and turned back. After the danger passed, the two travelers resumed their journey across the desert toward Medina. Meanwhile, the Muslims who had already migrated from Makkah were waiting anxiously for their arrival. Day after day, they gathered outside the city, hoping to see the Prophet ﷺ approaching in the distance. Finally, the long-awaited moment arrived. The Prophet ﷺ entered Medina to a joyful welcome from the people who would later be known as the Ansar, meaning the helpers. Those who had migrated from Makkah were called the Muhajirun, meaning the emigrants. One of the first actions taken by the Prophet ﷺ in Medina was the construction of Al-Masjid al-Nabawi, the Prophet's mosque. It became not only a place of worship, but also a center for education, community gathering, and leadership. He also established a powerful bond of brotherhood between the Muhajirun and the Ansar, pairing families together to support each other as equals. This created a society built not on tribal loyalty, but on faith and justice. The migration marked a turning point. For the first time, Muslims had a place where they could practice their religion freely and build a community based on the principles of Islam. So important was this event that the Islamic calendar would later begin with the year of the Hijrah. But the peace in Medina would not last long. The leaders of Makkah were determined to destroy the new Muslim community, and the battles that followed would shape the future of Islam forever. After the migration to Medina, the Muslim community finally had a place to live in peace. Under the leadership of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, a new society began to grow, built on faith, justice, and unity. But the leaders of Makkah could not accept this new reality. The Quraysh had already lost control over many Muslims who had migrated from Makkah. Now they feared that Islam would continue to spread across Arabia. Determined to destroy the new Muslim community, they began preparing armies to attack Medina. The first major confrontation came in the year 624 CE at the Battle of Badr. The Muslims were vastly outnumbered. Around 313 believers stood against nearly 1,000 well-armed Quraysh warriors. From a military perspective, the outcome seemed obvious. Yet the Muslims fought with unwavering faith. The battle ended in a stunning victory for the Muslims. Many leaders of Quraysh were defeated, and the event strengthened the confidence of the Muslim community. For the believers, the victory of Badr was seen as a powerful sign that divine help could overcome overwhelming odds. However, the Quraysh were not ready to accept defeat. The following year, they returned with a larger army seeking revenge. This time, the confrontation occurred near the mountain of Uhud in the Battle of Uhud. At first, the Muslims gained the advantage. But during the battle, a group of archers left their strategic position on the battlefield after believing the enemy was retreating. This opened a gap that allowed the Quraysh cavalry to attack from behind. The situation quickly turned chaotic. Many Muslims were injured, and the Prophet ﷺ himself was wounded during the fighting. Though the Muslims managed to survive the battle, the outcome served as a powerful lesson in discipline and obedience. The message was clear. Victory required not only faith, but also unity and strategic patience. 2 years later, the enemies of Medina gathered for an even larger attack. Several tribes united with the Quraysh to form a massive coalition army determined to wipe out the Muslim community completely. This led to the Battle of the Trench. Facing an army far larger than their own, the Muslims adopted a defensive strategy suggested by the companion Salman al-Farsi, digging a massive trench around the exposed parts of Medina. The trench surprised the attacking forces, who were unfamiliar with such tactics. Unable to cross it easily, the enemy army laid siege to the city. For weeks, tension filled Medina. Supplies ran low, and fear spread among some of the residents. Yet the believers remained patient. Eventually, strong winds and internal disagreements among the attacking tribes forced the coalition army to retreat without achieving their objective. The failure of this siege marked a turning point. After the Battle of the Trench, the power of the Quraysh began to weaken, while the influence of the Muslim community grew stronger across Arabia. A few years later, another historic moment occurred: the Treaty of Hudaybiyyah. At first, the treaty seemed unfavorable to the Muslims. Some companions even felt disappointed by its terms, yet the Prophet ﷺ accepted it with wisdom and patience. In reality, the treaty created a period of peace that allowed Islam to spread rapidly across Arabia. Tribes that had once hesitated now began embracing the message freely. Within just a few years, the balance of power in Arabia had completely shifted. The city that once persecuted the Prophet ﷺ and his followers would soon witness an event that no one in Makkah could have imagined. The return of the Prophet ﷺ, not as an exile, but as a victorious leader, bringing mercy instead of revenge. For many years, the city of Makkah had been the center of opposition against Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and his followers. It was the place where Muslims had been persecuted, tortured, and forced to leave their homes. Yet history was about to take a remarkable turn. In the year 630 CE, the peaceful agreement known as the Treaty of Hudaybiyyah was broken by allies of the Quraysh. This violation gave the Muslims a legitimate reason to respond. The Prophet ﷺ began preparing a large force to march toward Makkah. But unlike most military campaigns in Arabia, his goal was not revenge or destruction. Instead, he aimed to bring peace to the city that had once rejected him. Nearly 10,000 Muslims advanced toward Makkah. As the army approached, many of the Quraysh leaders realized that resistance would only lead to unnecessary bloodshed. The city that once expelled the Prophet ﷺ now opened its gates with little fighting. This historic moment became known as the Conquest of Makkah. When the Prophet ﷺ entered the city, the people of Makkah gathered anxiously. Many feared that the years of persecution would now be answered with punishment. But the Prophet ﷺ surprised everyone. Standing before the people, he declared words of mercy that would echo through history. "Go, for you are free." Instead of revenge, he offered forgiveness. One of the most powerful moments of that day occurred when the Prophet ﷺ entered the sacred Kaaba. For centuries, idols had surrounded it, symbols of the polytheistic practices of the time. One by one, these idols were removed, restoring the Kaaba to the pure worship of one God. This moment symbolized the spiritual transformation of Arabia. After the conquest of Makkah, Islam spread rapidly across the Arabian Peninsula. Tribes that had once opposed the Prophet ﷺ began embracing the message of Islam. But the mission of the Prophet ﷺ was approaching its final chapter. In the year 632 CE, he performed his final pilgrimage to Makkah, known as the Farewell Pilgrimage. During this pilgrimage, he delivered one of the most important speeches in Islamic history, the Farewell Sermon. Standing before thousands of followers, he summarized the core principles of Islam: justice, equality, compassion, and the unity of humanity. Among his powerful messages were these timeless teachings: no Arab is superior to a non-Arab, and no non-Arab is superior to an Arab, except in righteousness. The rights of women must be respected. All believers are brothers and sisters, and every human life and property must be protected. The sermon emphasized that Islam was not merely a religion for one tribe or one nation. It was a message for all humanity. Shortly after returning to Medina, the Prophet ﷺ fell ill. Surrounded by his family and companions, he spent his final days reminding the Muslim community to remain steadfast in faith and unity. In June 632 CE, the Prophet ﷺ passed away. The news deeply shocked the companions who had walked beside him for more than 20 years. Yet the message he delivered did not end with his passing. The Quran remained preserved. The teachings of Islam continued to guide millions of hearts. And the legacy of the Prophet ﷺ spread far beyond the deserts of Arabia. What began with a quiet revelation in a small cave had grown into a message that would transform civilizations. The life of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was not simply a story of migrations and battles. It was the story of mercy, guidance, and a message that continues to inspire humanity more than 14 centuries later. More than 14 centuries have passed since the life of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Yet his message continues to guide millions of people across the world. From the deserts of Arabia, a transformation began that reshaped history. What started with a single revelation in a quiet cave grew into a civilization built on faith, knowledge, justice, and compassion. The Prophet ﷺ was not remembered merely as a leader or a statesman. He was remembered as a teacher of mercy. He showed kindness to children, compassion to the poor, forgiveness to enemies, and respect to people of every background. Even those who once opposed him eventually recognized the sincerity of his character. Through every stage of his life, whether in hardship or victory, his mission remained the same: to guide humanity toward the worship of one God and toward living with justice and dignity. The message he delivered through the Quran continues to inspire hearts today. It teaches that faith must be accompanied by good character, that power must be balanced with humility, and that every human being deserves fairness and respect. His life also left behind a powerful example known as the Sunnah. His words, actions, and character that Muslims strive to follow. The story of his life reminds us that great change often begins quietly. A single voice calling for truth can grow into a movement that transforms entire societies. From the early days of persecution in Makkah, to the migration that built a new community, to the forgiveness shown at the Conquest of Makkah, every chapter of his life carried a lesson. Today, the legacy of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ lives on not only in books of history, but in the daily prayers, actions, and hopes of more than 1 billion people. His story is not just the history of Islam, it is the story of how faith, patience, and mercy can change the world.